Nobody expected that a simple evening in Nashville would push America's most adored couple to the edge of a breakup. Nobody expected that a gentle conversation about someday would crack open everything they thought they understood about partnership. And absolutely nobody expected that when Travis Kelce lightly suggested Taylor Swift should pause her career for their future children, her quiet, cutting response, "You don't get to dictate what I do with my life," would ignite a 10-day separation that forced both of them to confront the deepest truths about love, identity, and equality. October 14th, 2025, Nashville autumn air was crisp enough to taste. Golden leaves scattered across the long driveway of Taylor Swift's estate. Inside her home studio, the warm glow of vintage lamps reflected off guitars, lyric notebooks, and half-finished ideas, her sanctuary of creation. Travis had flown in from Kansas City for his Tuesday off, and the afternoon had been perfect. Fast-timing with their wedding planner, laughing over venue options, arguing playfully about honeymoon destinations. By evening, they were curled up on the studio couch, sharing a bottle of wine while Taylor tuned her guitar. It was one of those rare, quiet nights where everything felt simple until it didn't. "I keep thinking about what our kids will be like," Travis said softly, watching her with the same awe he always had. Taylor's smile was genuine, warm, full of dreamy future. They imagined daughters with guitars and brothers with stubborn Kelce charm. Children who would run between stadiums and recording studios, inheriting the best of both worlds. It was sweet, perfect, until the moment Travis asked, "So, when do you think we should start trying?" Taylor paused, not hesitating, just thinking. "Well, I finish the Ray recordings next year. The tour ends after that. Maybe 2027? 2027 sounds perfect," Travis said easily. "He'll be ready to take a break from touring by then." And just like that, like a single wrong chord and a perfect melody, the air shifted. Taylor looked up slowly. "Take a break?" Travis didn't even notice the warning in her voice. "Well, yeah," he said casually, still smiling, still oblivious. "I mean, once we have kids, you'll want to focus on being a mom for a while. Kids need their mother, especially early on." Taylor set her guitar down slowly, carefully, deliberately, a quiet gesture, but one Travis should have recognized as a storm forming. "And what will you be doing during those early years?" she asked, her voice almost too calm. "Working," he said instantly. "Someone has to provide. I'll probably play a few more seasons, build financial security, make sure our family is set." Taylor blinked. "Once, twice, so let me get this straight," she said softly. "Your plan is, I pause my entire career to raise our children, while you continue playing football?" "Taylor, that's not what I meant," Travis rushed. "I just think kids need stability. Our schedules are crazy. One of us should be home, and you automatically assumed that person should be me?" Her voice sharpened. "You're the woman," Travis said, and instantly, regret slicing through him the moment the words left his mouth. The room turned cold. Taylor stood up, back straight as a blade. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" "Taylor, you're misunderstanding," Travis stammered. "You're more nurturing, more equipped for that kind of thing, more equipped." Her laugh was silent but devastating. "You think I can just disappear for a year or two and magically come back? Do you have any idea how this industry works?" Travis tried again weakly, desperately. "I support your career, I really do. But football is different. It has a shorter timeline. I can't take a year off, and I can." Taylor snapped. "You think my career is flexible while yours is sacred? That's not what I'm saying. It's exactly what you're saying." Her voice finally rose, emotion cracking through her composure. "You're saying your career matters more. You're saying that because I'm a woman, I should be the one to sacrifice. You're saying my life becomes smaller so yours can stay the same." I never said that, Travis insisted, but even he could hear the hollowness. "You didn't have to say it," Taylor breathed. "You assumed it." Silence filled the studio thick, suffocating. Then Taylor delivered the line that shattered him. "I actually thought you were different." She took a slow breath, steadying herself. "I need you to leave. Taylor, please, we're upset. Let's talk. I'm not ending anything. I just need space. I need to figure out if the man I fell in love with is the same man who just told me my career should take a back seat to his, and with her eyes full of hurt he had caused, Taylor Swift walked out, leaving Travis standing in the middle of her studio, surrounded by instruments and dreams he had just insulted without meaning to. That night, he flew back to Kansas City, not realizing he had just ignited the hardest 10 days of their lives. Travis never imagined that the quiet hum of his Kansas City home could feel so loud. He spent the first night replaying the conversation, like a nightmare stuck on a loop. Every word he'd said, every wince on Taylor's face, every assumption he'd made without realizing how painfully old-fashioned they sounded. He texted, he called, he apologized. But Taylor didn't answer, not because she was punishing him, but because she needed space to untangle what his words revealed. Day 1 to 3, Taylor faces the truth. Taylor confided in her mother Andrea. She vented to her closest friends. She broke it all down with her therapist. Everyone gently pointed out the same thing. Travis hadn't just hurt her. He had exposed a belief system he didn't even know he had. A belief that a woman's career is flexible. A man's career is fixed. A woman should naturally be the one to stay home. A man's ambitions outrank hers. Taylor cried not out of anger but out of disappointment so deep it scared her. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, Jason tried to defend Travis at first, but Kylie Sharp, grounded. Kylie cut right through both brothers. Travis, she said at dinner on day 3, do you understand what you actually said to her? I said we should start talking about having a family. No, Kylie said firmly. You told her her career was less important. You told her she should give up everything she's built, because that's what women are supposed to do. Travis opened his mouth, but Kylie silenced him with one look. Tradition doesn't mean Taylor's life should shrink so yours can stay big. If Jason ever said that to me, I would have questioned our marriage too. And Travis felt something break open in him, a blind spot he'd never examined. Day 4 to 6, Donna says what he needed to hear in day 5. In the Kelce family kitchen, Donna put a hand on her son's arm. Travis, you were wrong. He looked at his mother, confused and hurting. I just want to take care of my family, he said. And you can, Donna replied. But taking care of your family doesn't mean deciding for your family. It means choosing together. I stayed home because I wanted to, Travis, not because your father assumed I should. Her voice softened. And Taylor isn't me. She built a world from nothing. She has every right to keep building it even after children. Travis's throat tightened. For the first time, he understood that his intentions weren't the measure, his impact was. Day 7 to 8, the realization he couldn't sleep. He couldn't eat. He couldn't focus at practice. Because for the first time in his life, he realized he had hurt the woman he loved by being a man who thought he was more evolved than he actually was. On day 8, he called Jason. I think I ruined everything. Why? Jason asked. Because I told Taylor she needed to change her identity to fit into my idea of a wife. Jason exhaled slowly. That's a big admission. But it's not too late if you actually change the way you think, not just the way you apologize. Day 9, the letter. Travis booked a flight to Nashville without telling anyone. He didn't text. He didn't call. He didn't push. He just showed up at Taylor's door with a white envelope in trembling hands. Taylor almost didn't answer, but something in his posture, small, defeated, unguarded, made her open the door. I'm not here to argue, he said immediately. I'm here to tell you that I understand now. He handed her the letter. I was wrong. Not just wrong about what I said, but wrong about everything underneath it. Taylor stared at the envelope but didn't open it. Whether you forgive me or not, Travis added softly, I'm going to be better. I want to be better with you or without you. He turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, the world needs Taylor Swift making music far more than it needs another aging football player. Taylor's breath hitched. He left. She sat with the letter for an hour before finally opening it. Inside was the most vulnerable, self-aware thing he'd ever written. A confession. A reckoning, a promise, and the first real glimpse of the man she had always believed he could be. When Taylor finally opened the envelope, her hands were already trembling. Inside wasn't just an apology, it was a mirror one that showed Travis seeing himself clearly for the first time. The letter was long, handwritten, and raw in a way few things he'd ever said out loud had been. The letter acknowledged everything, the unconscious gender expectations, the assumptions he didn't realize he was making, the blind spots he had inherited without questioning. He admitted he'd been raised in a world where men were taught that providing meant leading, and that he had never fully examined how that belief system affected the woman he loved. He wrote about how Taylor's ambition inspired him, not threatened him, how he'd fallen in love with her fire, not her softness, how he never wanted to be a ceiling over her life. And then came the part that made her cry. I didn't just ask you to make a sacrifice. I asked you to make yourself smaller so I could stay the same. That is not love. That is fear of changing my role, fear of becoming something new. He proposed new ideas, real partnership ideas. They would both scale back when they had children. Not one or the other. Both. He would consider retiring earlier than planned, not out of pressure, but out of choice so he could be present. Taylor's career would never again be treated as flexible, optional, or secondary. Every major decision would be made together, never assumed. And at the very end, I want to be a man who makes your world bigger, not smaller. A father who teaches our children that equality isn't a promise, it's a practice. If you give me another chance, I'll spend the rest of my life proving I deserve it. Taylor pressed the letter to her heart. She cried hard, not from pain this time, but from feeling seen again. The next morning, she called him. The meeting, halfway between two cities, they chose a quiet restaurant halfway between Nashville and Kansas City. Neutral ground, safe ground. When they saw each other, there was no dramatic run into arms, just two people who loved each other, sitting down to finally understand. Travis apologized, truly apologized, not with excuses, not with defensiveness, but with clarity. Taylor listened, not coldly, not angrily, but with a cautious heart, trying to decide if trust could be rebuilt. Then the real conversation began. It was long, sometimes hard, sometimes emotional, sometimes filled with uncomfortable truths, but it was honest. For the first time, they weren't trying to win. They were trying to learn. They talked about how motherhood would affect Taylor's identity, how fatherhood would transform Travis, how careers could be balanced creatively, how love required growth, not sacrifice, how equality required awareness, not assumptions. And then they made a pact. Neither of them would ever shrink for the other. Not in marriage, not in parenting, not in life. Taylor wiped her eyes. When I fell in love with you, she said softly, I fell in love with someone who saw me as an equal. I need to know that man is still here. Travis reached across the table. He is, he said, and I'm working every day to be better than the man I was last week. The new rules of their love, they created a foundation together, a genuine, modern partnership built on 1. Equal sacrifice, not automatically hers, not automatically his. 2. Shared decisions, no assumptions, ever again. 3. Mutual career, respect the music, his football, both matter. 4. Emotional transparency, no more quiet resentments. Everything gets talked about. 5. Growth as a requirement, a bonus. A foundation, the aftermath, stronger than before. Reconciliation didn't happen in one night. It took another week of talking, listening, and rebuilding. But by November, as they returned to planning their February wedding, something had changed between them. They weren't just marrying for love. They were marrying for partnership, for a shared future, for a life where both of them could flourish. Their vows now included promises of equality, promises of honoring ambition, promises of never asking the other to become smaller. And for the first time since that painful night in her studio, both Taylor and Travis felt certain this wasn't the fight that broke them. This was the fight that built them. By late November, winter was just beginning to wrap itself gently around Tennessee. Nashville glowed with soft lights and early holiday decorations, but inside Taylor Swift's home, a different kind of glow filled the rooms, one made of healing, reflection, and an entirely rebuilt foundation. The fight that nearly ended them had become the turning point that defined them. Wedding planning. But different now, their meetings with the wedding planner. No longer focused just on flowers, seating charts, or venues. No, now. Taylor and Travis were asking questions that couples rarely dare to ask before marriage. What does equality look like on hard days? How do we protect each other's dreams? How do we build a home where ambition isn't gendered? Their officiant listened quietly as they talked through their vision of marriage, a partnership shaped by two careers, to identities, and to futures braided together, not one absorbing the other. And when the officiant asked about vows, Taylor spoke first. "I want vows that aren't just poetic," she said. "I want vows that are honest, about partnership, about respect, about protecting each other's wings." Travis nodded. "And about growing," he added, "even when it's uncomfortable." Especially then, the officiant smiled. "I think the two of you are trying to write a marriage for the next generation." Counseling, not for crisis, but for strength. He began seeing a couples counselor, not because they were breaking, but because they were building something that required intention. In their sessions, Travis learned how deeply Taylor's identity was tied to her work, not in a shallow celebrity way, but in the lifelong creation that had shaped her since childhood. And Taylor learned how much Travis connected his worth to providing, a pressure he had swallowed. Since his earliest playing days together, they began to rewrite what partnership meant. Not man provides, woman nurtures, but to people choosing their roles based on who they are, not who tradition tells them to be. Their counselor said something in one session that neither of them ever forgot. Strong marriages aren't the ones without conflict. They're the ones where conflict becomes the doorway to growth. And that became the anthem of their future. December at the Kelces, a new energy when they visited Jason and Kylie's house in December. The whole Kelce family felt the change immediately. Travis wasn't defensive anymore. He wasn't insecure. He wasn't clinging to old ideas because they were familiar. He was listening. Taylor wasn't guarded anymore. She wasn't cautious or brittle from hurt. She was soft with him again, not because she let something go, but because she saw something grow. At dinner, Wyatt climbed into Taylor's lap and asked, "Aunt Taylor, will you teach me to sing like you?" And Taylor smiled, brushing a hand through the child's hair. "Of course, baby. And Uncle Trav can teach you to throw a football." Travis chuckled. "Or I can teach you how to listen to women," he joked under his breath. Kylie snorted into her wine. Jason pointed at him. "Character development," he announced. Everyone laughed. But Taylor reached under the table and squeezed Travis's hand, because she knew he meant it. The Nashville night that sealed Eton night. A week before Christmas, they stood together on Taylor's balcony, wrapped in blankets, looking over the cold, quiet city. "Can I tell you something?" Taylor whispered. "Anything." "I'm glad we fought." Travis looked down at her, surprised. "That wasn't what he expected," she continued, "if we hadn't had that conversation. I think those assumptions would have followed us into marriage, into parenthood, into every big thing we faced. But now I know we can handle hard conversations. We don't run, we repair." Travis swallowed hard. "I never want to be the reason your world gets smaller. And I never want to make you feel like you have to be perfect," she said. "We're allowed to learn together." He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. "I love you," he murmured into her hair. "I love you too," she whispered back. "And I love who we're becoming." The promise of their future at their February wedding would be beautiful, absolutely. But more importantly, it would be honest. Their vows would not just be about forever. They would be about growth, humility, equality, ambition, and the courage to keep choosing each other even when it's hard. They were no longer planning a wedding. They were building a marriage. And as the winter wind brushed past them on that Nashville balcony, Taylor leaned her head against Travis's chest with a small, contented smile. Because now, they weren't dreaming of a future shaped by tradition. They were dreaming of a future shaped by choice, respect, equality, and a love big enough for both of them to thrive.